Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, and this is the latest video from the um, short deck challenge that I started. I wanted to get some decent volume in at the lowest, well, relatively low stakes of these games, just to get used to the game, to learn it, and I set myself a challenge of winning 40 buy-ins at the 5 chip ante level, which is 100 antes is $10. And I thought that challenge would take me several weeks. That 40 buy-ins, it's quite difficult to do that in a game that you are brand new to and don't really know that well, albeit it's very similar to No Limit Hold'em in how the game plays. Ranges differ and strategies certainly differ a lot from No Limit Hold'em. But unfortunately, the challenge has kind of come to a premature end because I've already made whatever that is, 46 buy-ins in less than a week, which is fucking highly delightful from a fuck me, how did that happen perspective, but bit of a pisser for a challenge video because my challenge series never seemed to last that long. But I thought if this one wasn't going to last long, it would be because I quit the challenge, not because I completed it in, well, this is like 5,300 hands now, but it's actually 4,565 hands. It took me to get past the 20,000 chip mark of profit. I'm absolutely in love with the game. I still don't believe I'm particularly good at the game. I think the fact I've won so much so quickly is much more a product of positive variance and, well, just look around at the tables that we're observing at the minute. Like just the enormous amount of absolute weapons there are playing these games. I've ran really well in some of the softest games I've ever seen in my life, and those two things combining made for a absurd, fucking ridiculous, should be difficult to repeat, but who the fuck knows, win rate. I don't make these videos spammy anymore because people don't really want to watch spam videos. But whilst I've got your attention, I'm fully aware. I mean, I see traffic on these clubs. I see traffic from players who I work with, who I have worked with. I've seen people drifting away from poker over the last 9 months. I think some of that's COVID related for sure. People have had their income vastly reduced, or they've lost their jobs and they haven't got an income anymore. So that's definitely part of it. But part of it also is just No Limit Hold'em is tough. No Limit Hold'em, studying it for many, many recreational players is very, very boring, and they don't have the time to study to the lengths they need to study to get good enough so they can be competitive, even at relatively low stakes. And that's not just on the tough sites. That's even on the soft sites. Now, you look at Sky. You go and log in there on the evenings, and even look at just 20NL, and every table's got 4 or 5 regs on it. You know, every game is built around one. Maybe now and again, later on in the evenings or at certain times of day, you might find some tables with 2 or 3 fish on, like used to back in the prime, but that's now the exception to the rule. No Limit Hold'em is just like a very, in my opinion, we touched on it in the previous video, and I'm going to touch on it more in a video later this week if I get round to writing some stuff down and actually capturing my thoughts. No Limit Hold'em now is it's an incredibly reg saturated game, and there are enough recreational regulars who know that and choose not to play very much anymore because of that. And they've drifted away from the game. Maybe they've drifted to tournaments. Maybe they just stopped playing. If you're still in love with poker and you still want to play, but just don't want to play in shitty, boring, nitty, reg-infested No Limit Hold'em games, please, please, please do get in touch with me. First of all, if you still want to play No Limit at the micro stakes, these clubs are as good as anything you'll find in terms of like game quality. If you kind of think, oh, this game looks good, Reggie, get in touch. We can get you in the lower stakes games or some slightly higher stakes games of this like 6+, which I think is a phenomenally fun game. It's just fun, even when you're losing, it's good fun because you just see lots and lots of crazy action. We've got the Pineapple games that played a few weeks ago. They're pretty damn soft, and then you've got the PLO variants. My urging to you is, if you still love poker or still want to love poker but are just fallen out of love with No Limit, and even if you don't want to get in touch with me and play in the apps, play some different variants. Or if you're in groups, if you're on sites that offer them, like GG offers 6+ short deck. PokerStars, as much as I think they're a bunch of cunts for a lot of reasons, offer a wide variety of cash games. I think Party Poker offers this short deck game. I'm not sure if it offers 5-card PLO, but I know PokerStars offers 5-card PLO. Courchevel, don't give up on poker. Give up on No Limit Hold'em by all means. That's pretty much what I've done. But don't give up on poker, because it's probably been your hobby or your passion for a long time. And I'm sure many of you will agree that No Limit Hold'em has been ruined by the advent of more and more people using solvers or using strategies that have been devised on the back of many different solves. The game's been ruined by just recreational players drifting further away from it, so it's more like reg on reg on reg on reg on reg. No Limit Hold'em, in my opinion, is fucked as a cash game in its current format. I would love to see some sites spreading No Limit Hold'em using the short deck pre-flop betting format, where take away blinds and just have antes like we do now, so everyone's got to ante every single hand. That will certainly change the dynamic of the game. I think there's things that can be done to rescue No Limit Hold'em, but its current format of 100 big blinds, small blind, big blind, no ante, the game just doesn't hold recreational players' attention anymore, and it's put off an awful lot of recreational regulars. And by that I don't mean bad regulars, I mean just regulars who've got maybe 15-20 hours a week to play poker, but just don't, because they're just not well studied enough anymore, and they're aware of how well studied they need to be to even try and have an edge in the game. So even if you don't want to play No Limit Hold'em anymore, and fuck me, I don't blame you if you don't want to. Like I put 4 hours, 3 hours study into learning just some basic pre-flop strategies in this game, and I've had this kind of heat. Now it is heat. You can't learn a game that quickly and just become a crusher at it. I'm not a crusher. I still have many leaks in my game, but it's just so much more fun, so much more loose action in the games that you can do what I used to talk about in No Limit Hold'em years ago. You can earn while you learn. So yeah, the challenge is over. The next challenge for me is just to continue gaining experience at the game, learning from my experiences, trying to find some video content, which I'm struggling to do. There's some videos on YouTube. Some German guy does one. He just seems a bit German porn starry to me. I can't take him seriously. Could be an incredibly good player, but when I look at him, I just think, yep, German porn star. And he's got like a kind of funny, interesting voice. Says me. Yeah. So I'm struggling to find some decent content. I'm aware Upswing's got some content, but it costs a lot of fucking money. Run it once. I've only found 2 videos on there so far. They don't have a short deck drop down. So if anyone could point me in the direction of any decent training content for this game, there's more play and explain than like massively theory based, that isn't done by a German porn star, please do get in touch. So yeah, the next part of this challenge for me, it's not really a challenge anymore, is to move up to playing these games, the 10 chip ante games, as much as I can. I'll still be playing these games too, because traffic isn't, it's decent enough, but getting 3 tables of these games has been difficult so far. So my challenge is to get more of these games in, fill with these games here and just gain experience, gain knowledge, practice, or like hone my strategy. Because still pre-flop, I've got a lot of leaks. I don't really know what to stack up with pre-flop still. It kind of depends who I'm up against. I'm way more likely to stack up for light versus this guy than I am against this guy, for example. Hi, Kieran, by the way. So I'm kind of getting there, but I'm still a long, long way. In terms of my how much knowledge I've got of this game compared to how much I'd like to have, I'm probably still only at 10 or 15%. But the fact that I can be at 10 or 15% of the knowledge that I want to have and experience a week like I just have tells me these games have a fucking ton of potential, and they have a ton of potential for you too, if you choose to go and take a look at them. So that's the end of the summing up the challenge. It's been a little bit of spammy, but it's been sincere spam. I genuinely mean everything I've just said. I'm going to pause the recording now and we come back with our 3 tables of who knows what stakes. Not starting the recording yet, but ready first hand. We've been dealt in here, and we flopped upset in a multi-way pot. We're just going to go all in, and then we're going to pause the recording again while this table fills up. Just for fun, this is Kieran. This is the man. He's gone for it. We've turned quads. Unlucky Kieran. Hope you had fun, sir. I certainly did. Thank you very much, buddy. Much appreciated. So I think we can get going for half an hour now. We've got this table here, which is 2 regulars. We've already won a massive pot here. Didn't capture it on video, unfortunately, but we won a big 3-way all in with Ace King versus Pocket Kings, and I can't remember what the other hand was, but it was pleasant. It's not a particularly good table, but I don't mind playing regs in this game because A, I don't think they're very good, and B, we got to get better, and playing some slightly better players, observing what they're doing is going to be good for our learning curve. Don't think I want to be calling 11 antis here. I just saw this guy off recording get it all in pre-flop with Queen 10 off suit. This guy jammed Ace King, which I think is a bad play with just 2 of the regulars at the table, but this guy disproved that theory by calling with Queen 10 off suit. So there you go. I think that's like one of the things I've seen regulars do in these games, which personally I don't like. Maybe it's a strategy that works. It probably is a strategy that works, but I don't think it's the highest EV strategy. It's just like getting pocket kings and just open ripping from any position. I don't think it's good, but it happens and people get called. So maybe it is good. I don't like it personally, and I'm starting to learn to not just call these like. If one of these players just open rips, I'll call it relatively wide. If one of these guys just open rips, I'm happy folding pretty damn tightly because it's usually just pocket kings or ace king. Rarely aces, very rarely aces. So yeah, even in games where there's 3 or 4 of these orange tags, I still think I have edge in them, despite most of these players having significantly more hands than me. I mean, this guy's played 40,000 hands. Seems bad to me. He seems like a bad player. Well, as you can see, he loses a lot playing the game. So yeah, I'm happy to battle those guys. The games aren't quite as much fun when it's all these guys, but there's definitely still edge to be found. So we have 2 20 buying games at 100 antis is $20, and a $10 100 ante game. Now, I want to try and talk more in this video about some very, very basic strategies I'm starting to devise that can absolutely certainly be improved upon, but I'm trying to get some consistency in my play. So for now, from these first 3 positions, I'm pretty much got a limp strategy. Certainly limp first in from these three positions. With this ace queen suited against somebody with these manic stats. This guy's open for 200, which is bonkers, but this guy's putting extra money in. So he's going to go with it, and we get it in pretty rotten, but we do hit our live card for now. And we lose to the queen 9, but we win a tiny side pot from the ace king, so we get it in bad there and come out good. So yeah, back to the strategy. When I'm too far away from the button, as in this seat, this seat, this seat, so like I'm classing these three as late position and these three as early position. I'm usually limping unless there's been some significant action in front of me. We're going to make a small bet here with our ace queen. And for the other three positions, I'm not limping and I'm open raising when folded to me. Occasionally over limping some hands. I say it's not a brilliant strategy yet, but I'm just trying to like provide some consistency in what I'm doing. Again, just going to bet small here. Just try and get caught by like a jack, or hopefully a 9. We just take a small one down there. And then when it folds to me in one of the later positions, and just opening for just pot, that's it. You know, it's relatively small raise for these games. And when there's limpers, I'm clicking pot, and then depending on the stats of the player limped in, varying my raise size. It's very, very primitive. It's very similar to what Negreanu did at the early stages of his challenge versus Polk, where his team just gave him a very basic strategy of like 2 raise sizes, 2 bet sizes, post flop, etc. There's no point, in my opinion, trying to complicate things, overcomplicate things too early. Just learn what hopefully is a decent enough basic strategy to keep you safe, and then as you gain experience, as you gain knowledge, then try and hone that strategy, try and improve that strategy, try and mix more things into it to make you a better, more competitive player. I think the strategy I'm adopting now is more than good enough for these games as they currently play, but players are going to improve as time goes by. The game dynamics are going to change as time goes by. Excuse me. So my game's got to evolve with it, but we are where we are at the moment. We're very much, we've got a very limited amount of tools at our disposal, and my goal is to learn to use them very effectively, and then build on the strategy as we go. So it's like the button keeps moving, but if we're playing this hand now, we will be limp, limp, limp there, open raise from here, and then, you know, do some different things. If, say, someone's, for example, if say we were in this position at this table and this guy limped, we'd maybe mix in some isolation raises with our strongest hands and over limps with our weaker ones, etc. So there is room for some play in that. It's not rigid, but yeah, I'm talking more about when it folds to me in each position, what my strategy is. It will change slightly, of course, when it doesn't fold to me. Not expecting to win this pot here with top pair, but we have maybe too much showdown value to try and bluff, and, you know, how many better hands are we getting to fold? I'm going to try and see a flop here with the 8-9 suited in relatively late position. Oh, someone, we don't want to see any jams pre here, doesn't matter anymore because we've flopped virtually 0 equity. Now this type of thing, just open ripping from this first position. It's going to be an incredibly strong hand. It's not going to be like a Jack 10 suited or a King 10. Aces. And yeah, fine, he's managed to cooler the whale. But I don't like it. Maybe someone somewhere is trading this content who's much better than me, who's saying this is a good strategy. I don't like it, but I'm not qualified enough to completely dismiss it as a strategy yet, because as I've said, I have seen some pretty damn fucking wide calls from people who don't have to invest. You know, they're in for one ante, and then they're just calling 100 anti-jams with some pretty speculative holdings. So maybe it's good. But if it is a good strategy, it does go to show just how soft the games are when you can have such a really basic, thoughtless strategy that works pretty effectively. I mean, I think this guy's maybe one of the better eggs in the game, and he's doing it. So I'm not going to dismiss it out of hand. But I'm sure there could be some better ones out there. Just going to over limp the Jack 9 suited here against this limp person, and then someone else just goes all in. Good for you guys. Of course he would have made a flush, but never mind. I think one of the things I don't like about the strategy is that how do you learn to get better post flop and play like aces, kings, etc. post flop if you're never putting yourself in a position to have to do that because you're just always open ripping them? I don't think it's good for your development. Does it make money in these exact games? Yeah, of course it does. How can open ripping aces and kings not make money? Just the amount of dead money he collects makes it money. But I think it's a long way from being optimal, or it feels like it's a long way from being optimal. Nice work, Kieran. He's run so bad so far this session, what I've observed, so it's nice to see him drag a big one down. And boom. Boom indeed, Kieran. Boom indeed, sir. Happy for you to boom there. Normally I'm not happy for Rex to win, but I like Kieran. I've known him a long time now. Well, say known him. Known him in the online centre a long time. He's a good man. And he fucking loves to gamble. So, yeah. Normally, I'd be like, oh, fuck me, one of the nits has won a big pot from the fish, but in this instance, we can allow it. Another thing I like about this game, from both my perspective and recreational players, that fish is big losing players' perspective, is they can drag a big pot, and then they can do this chip withdrawal thing where you can like withdraw 100 answers from the table, so you're not playing too deep. Because I think one of the things that where fish lose a lot of the money is, I think we probably need to call here with our straight and our nut flush draw, because flushes beat full houses in these games. So if we hit a diamond, we've got the nuts. If we hit an ace, maybe we improve past some jack X. Don't think we're going to call a river unless it's a tiny bit. Improving to the ace gives us showdown value against his checkbacks, doesn't necessarily beat anything he bets still. So yeah, the fact that like a fish can win a huge pot, can triple up, and then they don't have to sit there with it all on the table and then lose it in another big cooler to another regular. I think playing this game super deep, like 400 antes deep, would be fun. I think it'd be an awful lot of fun game, but the variance would be massively ramped up, which would be too much for some people, maybe myself included. But also ensures that, like, when a really weak player does get lucky and win a huge pot, they can take some of their winnings back and keep reloading and staying in the game, rather than building up a big stack, losing it all in one pot, and then bang, they're out of the game again. I do like the chip withdrawal feature. I think it's a nice feature for the game. Here with the kings, we're going to go in with the pretty damn big ISO raise. Now we're just going to go all in, because there's already 190 in the pot. We've only got 572 in our stack. Any raise is just going to be all in. There's no other raise size to choose, so it's either flat, which would be a disaster in this game, or just rip it in. We run into aces, which is unfortunate. Rooting for the flush to get there for this guy, or the straight flush. One thing we weren't rooting for was, mind this guy's not a reg either, but we were always rooting for the guy with the highest VPIP. With a lot of hands that'll be isolating here. Queen 10 up is going to be one of them. I'm sure I'm coming down with a bit of a cold. Sure I am. With the Queen 10 off, we're going to peel once with the second pair and straight draw. 10's not a good card. It does improve us to 2 pairs, but if we have the best hand, we're not going to get much action, and if we don't have the best hand, then we're not going to get any folds. Don't think we're calling this river if he bets. With the jacks here, we get a pretty fucking useless flop, and we get led into, but all in, almost 2.5x pot, easy fold. And definitely coming down with a cold, I think. Isolate the nit with the pocket queens here. We cry calling off versus a limp shove. Don't face a limp shove. Kick up with a check here with the queens. Just keep checking. Ace queen here, we're going to make a pretty substantial isolation raise over the limp. I'm far from in love with our queens here, but we do have a flush draw and 2 queen outs, so I think we cry call, and hopefully the river goes check check and we win. Doesn't he? Has jack 7 and only gets 1 street of value. Over here we have weird SPR. I think if we bet kind of that much, then we can just shove turns. If he check shoves on us, then we're crying, but we're calling. Ace 10 off. I think it's a pretty miserable hand, Ace 10 off, in these games. I think he's dominated so often. We're not going to be trying to isolate an under the gun limp with it, that is for certain. We're just going to over limp. I hope this guy doesn't put the squeeze on, which he doesn't, and miss. And play much earlier than I usually do. Peak traffic for these games tends to be kind of early to mid-afternoon through till, well, there's games round the clock, to be fair. If you start tables, you'll run. But in terms of like coming in and just seeing games running, you can join probably early afternoon to late evening UK time. So took me like a few minutes to get these 2 tables running. I'd like a third one, but there's currently only 2 6 max 10NL tables available. Sorry, 20NL or however you express it, tables available. If I was planning a long session, I would be getting onto the club manager, asking him to open more tables. Sometimes that happens quickly, sometimes not so quickly. But as I'm planning on going the fuck back to bed when I've finished recording, then I'm not going to bother asking for them. If you ask for them, then don't use them. Nah, probably not a good thing. I'd prefer to see more tables just being open at all times. Just keep 4 of every table open. But that doesn't seem to be the way they do things in this club. If we go to the Australian club, which is what I'm planning to move up to next, these 50 anti-games, you can see there's a lot more of them, but also just like a lot more empty tables. My next plan is to move up to those games, the 50 Aussie cent, which is like 35 US dollars. I mean, I could just go play those games. What am I doing here? Isolating. No, we're not. We're limping. Oh, we're limping. Could just go to those games now. I mean, in terms of my overall poker bankroll, I'm more than rolled to play them. But I want to do this properly, not for like a challenge series. Just I want to do it properly in terms of like move up to games when I've earned it, rather than just I can afford it, so I'm gonna do it. I think like betting quite small on these paired boards works really quite well. I use this size quite often as a bluff on paired boards. Don't do much bluffing in these games, but when I do, it's usually like airball bluffing, should I say. It's usually when there's trips on board, because you seem to get an extraordinary amount of folds for like a pretty cheap price. So yeah, next plan on this is like play these as much of these, but basically try and get the bankroll in this club up to an amount where I can just move it across to the other club and move up. Like I say, I could just stick 1,000 Aussie dollars in that other club and just grind them now, and I think I'd be plus EV in them and winning money. And for volume, that might be better because the Australian club seems to have has more traffic than for these games than this club does. But the games in the Australian club, the lowest game is the 50 cent anti-game. With this SPR here, I'm just going to rip the Ace King. We've got like an SPR of 2. Very, very connected board. I mean, we could just pot it as well, but that would leave like a quarter pot river shove. Prefer this sizing. Get you a few more folds from hands you like to fold that have equity. Not many more. I don't see many people folding draws in these games, but it will give us a little bit more fold equity against hands that would have head off but are very live. And it just gets value from anyone who wants to call with like King Queen, King Jack, and just say fuck you to me. Ace Queen suited here. There's just no reason. I've got one ante and I don't need to gamble like another 97 antes in in a spot where there's not going to be, even if Ace Queen's a favourite, it's probably not going to be a big one. There's no reason to do it. This is one of the most annoying people in the fucking games because he's shit. He is very shit. He's just stuff like that, and every time he's in the pot, if he loses big ones, my penis grows by a couple of millimeters, which you could use, by the way. I could use him losing more and more big pots because I could definitely use every single extra millimeter that the good Lord gives me. our Jack 10 could be good here. Checks through on the flop. It's going to make a small value bet on the turn. Very small value bet. And then check down if called. Fold if raised. King Queen suited on the button. We're going to be whacking this right up there. If we get jammed on it, it puts us in a shit spot depending on who jams. But just these guys have to be weak. You don't overlimp from these positions with a hand that's like premium. It just isn't done. I think Kieran could have some limp traps. This guy could have some limp traps. These guys definitely don't. Again, we've got this like weird SPR. We've got top pair. We're just gonna go all in, try and collect any dead money that's in the pot, and if we get called, hopefully have some equity. I'll re-jam the jacks here. This middle table. Don't really want any action behind. Kieran's gone all in. We have ace king. I don't think Kieran's doing this too light, but he gave us a spin earlier, didn't he? So we'll give him a spin now. How's our jacks going to do? Our jacks are going to do just fine there. And Kieran gets one back. But we did drag down a very tasty, whatever the fuck that is, $30 odd pot with our ace queen, or with our jacks, or whatever the fuck it was. So I'll show you the chip withdraw thing now. We can just take 1,000 chips back off the table. And now we're only sat with 170 antes at the start of the next hand. And if I wanted to go right back to the 1,000, I'll show you how I would do that. We would top up here to whatever, just add 300 chips. So the next time we're going to be up to 2,075. Or maybe we're going to be up to more than that. So perhaps this isn't going to be a good way to demonstrate the point I'm wanting to make. Shout out to Dabvan from Sky, by the way. I was chatting with him in a Sky MTT last night. He was saying he was loving the challenge. If you're in the chat, Dabvan, please respond with some snide comment about how shit I am at No Limit Hold'em tournaments. As you saw last night, you saw how shit I was. So please feel free to make a snide comment about that in the chat. So now we can withdraw the 1,000 and get our stack back down to a starting stack, which I'm at the moment much more comfortable with. 2 limps here, so we're going to go with a pot plus 3 antes sizing. Doesn't deter anyone as yet. Still hasn't deterred anyone, but we've flopped pretty damn well. So against the bigger stack here, we have an SPR of 3. So if we bet like 280 here, we're going to be able to rip any turn if it doesn't go in on the flop. This guy just doing his all-in thing again because he's just a born prick. We turn the absolute nuts. It does create a flush draw. No reason to slow play here. If he's got an ace or a full house, he's just never folding. I mean, heaven knows what draws he had there. I mean, the ace acts as a 5, so he could have had like 6, 7, I guess, something like that. But even that, I think, probably just calls it off. So because we won a sizable pot there, our stack is still bigger than we want it to be. With the king, queen, which is this many limpers, it's not strong enough to isolate with, in my opinion. So he's going to over limp it. So this pot, look, now we can do our thing again. We'll have 300. 350 actually, because it's going to take an anti-offers next time. And then as soon as that's added, we'll hit the withdraw chips and get back down to, oops, that's the wrong button. We'll get back down to a starting stack. Kieran goes with the isolation here over this dude. Kieran will have a much stronger hand than ace 10 here. So we're going to leave Kieran to it. Overlink the king 10 suited. This bell end goes with a much smaller size here. Don't like giving him action, but I think we're probably going to, assuming no extra raises go in before the flop. So now, as you can see, we've got our stack up to 2043. We can take 1,000 off, and we start the next hand with just over 100 antes again. It's a rubbish flop over here, and George Soros is just going to at least blow me off the pot. We're rooting for you here, fella. We're rooting for you. We pick up a nut flush draw, which, as we said earlier, in this game will beat full houses if we make it, but we're not going to get a chance to make it. Oh, do fuck off. Really started to dislike this dude. He just comes in, plays like a fucking nit, does shit things, and kind of makes the table shit because he's just there. This is it. He's just like an all-in or fall guy, and it's clearly fucking working for him because he's getting smashed to fucking bits, but he just keeps doing it. George Soros, you, sir, are a fucking moron. And I wish nothing but bad things for you in these games, unless you work at improving your strategy and stop being such a fucking little bitch. There, have that, George Soros. You've been told. When I see people just doing this, you know what the first word that comes to my head? Scared. Scared is the first word that comes to my head. Scared of getting sucked out on. Scared of, having to play post flop. It's like, ooh, me have hand I like. Me go all in so I can't get sucked out on and I can't get outplayed. You absolute fucking virgins. Fucking man the fuck up. I mean, they don't make the games unprofitable. Far from it, because the jamming hands where sometimes they're going to, get caught by much better. So it's not that jamming, it makes the games impossible to beat. It just makes them less fun because it's just like, oh, I'm all in because look at me. I mean, if your only strategy pre-flop for this game is all in, all limp, then you're a very, very limited poker player. Very limited poker player. And whilst you continue to adopt that strategy, you're going to continue to be a very limited poker player. I think it upset someone in one of the previous videos where I was criticising certain players' style of playing. Like you are, not that player in particular. He said, I'm one of the bad regs you talked about, and maybe he's George Scott, George Solos, who knows? But I don't want to. Well, I guess I do want to offend people actually, but you know, you got to call a spade, man. And these stats don't necessarily mean you're bad at the game. If you've got an orange tag, it's me saying that you're not terrible at the game, but there's definitely room for improvement, and I'm not sure how many of these guys are trying to improve that much. That's the thing. I just think they're in there. They've got a strategy that just about works, and they're not willing to try different things to put themselves in different spots to see if there's a better strategy out there. So yeah, by definition, they are bad regulars. I'm a bad regular at this game right now, but I'm trying not to be a bad regular. Whereas I'm not sure many of these brown tag guys are trying not to be a bad regular. I just think they're in there, they get dealt good cards, and they're scared to learn how to play them properly. So I'm all in because it's plus EV. And that's what bad regs do. They don't maximise their EV. Or they don't try to maximise their EV. And that is what makes them bad regs. Or one of the things that makes a bad reg. I'm sure some of these guys, if I had a conversation with them, would think they were better than me. I'm telling them now, I don't care that you've got 10 times more experience than me in the games in terms of like how many hands you played. I'm telling you now, I'm already better than you because the things you are doing just make you not that good at poker. How's that for a bit of salt? Eat that, bad regs. I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to be kind to Kieran, but he's got similar stats to these other guys, but he's mixing it up. He's limping, he's using normal limp sizes, he's using jams. He's in there he's not just doing the whole limp or all-in strategy. He's like, right, well, he's clearly put a bit of thought into the game. And he's like, right, well, I need to be limping in these spots again, and then in these spots I need to be raising to a size that isn't all-in. And then some spots he just identifies that, right, this is an all-in spot, so he takes it. Kieran's doing okay in the games. Certainly doing better than this cunt over here. This guy's doing okay, but he does the all-in pre-flop thing sometimes, but not always. There's one half-decent player I've seen, Pat Manu or something, I think. He hasn't been elevated to red tag status yet, but he's the closest to it that I've seen. Got some good tables. I mean, this one isn't good, but we'll stick with it. I'm not feeling as tired as I did. I asked my wife to wake me up before she went out to work so I could do this video today because her hours have been significantly cut due to COVID. So the windows of opportunity I used to have to make videos are less ajar than they used to be. So I need to be like, right, she's out of the fucking house, let's do one. So like being woken up at 10 to 9 was really not my idea of fun. I was up watching the Negreanu Pulp Challenge until gone 2 a.m. and then couldn't get to sleep. So I'm working on about 4 hours kip at the minute, but I'll catch up this afternoon. I'm not walking away from these games. Too good at the moment, and I'm not tired, so fuck it. We'll make it a long video. Not many people get to the end of them. But for those of you that do enjoy my stuff, You're getting a bonus edition. Not sure what time the wife's due back home, but we might just carry on playing until the wife gets home. Unless all 3 tables end up like this one, and then we'll probably just wrap it up. This table is actually quite shit because we've got some relatively tight players who are just using this strategy. So it just like, I'm making money at this table. Long term, this guy just called it off with 9-10 offsuit, which is quite remarkable. That's why he's got that number there, you fucking idiot, George Soros. There isn't much play at this table. It's very much just sit and then wait for spots. But I still think, and plus he beat it, so we'll keep playing it. But these tables are much better because there's just more play in them. I think when I get my balance to 40,000 chips in this club, or if I get my balance to 40,000 chips, that's perhaps when I'll at least move. I'll maybe move like 500 Aussie dollars then over to the Australian club to take a look at those games. Problem with that is that it messes your graphs up because when games are played in different currencies, but it just measures them all like this. Like so, look at the month's graph. If I go in the next club and then say I win 20 buy-ins, that's only going to be 1,000. Going to overlimp this King Jack, so it's going to mess the graph up, and it's going to be harder to track my annual results. I could just play on one of my other accounts, but I don't have a HUD on the other account, so probably won't. Getting in with the Jack Queen off this time. He's a strange cat, this fellow, and now he's finally had enough. Oh no, he's moved to his lucky seat, that's what he's done. It's an interesting spot because I don't think there's enough to just rip here. So we're gonna make it like 110. Weird spot because of his like really small ISO raise. And we might be about to experience a multi-way all-in. Here I'm going to use one of my small bet sizes on this board. Multi-way all-in incoming on table 3. Our really small bet takes it down, as we talked about earlier. And we're going to lose. We're going to lose to the jacks. Never mind. as we talked about earlier, we had a multi-way pot there, and we took it down for like 1/3 pot on the paired board. Really like the strategy. Seems to work really well. Kieran's gone with the ISO here. We are not folding the 10-9 suited because it's just too damn pretty. Sadly, it hasn't flopped well. Another all-in at the all-in or fold table. We see the Ace-8 versus the Kings. Rooting for a card that gave him the best hand. Didn't come. Yeah, this table has just been all in pre-flop, hasn't it? That's been the game. All in or fold pre-flop. It does make for a very dull table. But as you've seen in all the all-ins, at least one of them, not every one of them, because this guy certainly calls some very strange hands, but at least one of them's had a top end of their range hand, which is why I'm still not willing to just get it all in with like the ace jacks, king queen suited, that type of thing. I think when I started playing these games, if you remember the first videos I made, I was getting it all in pre-flop way too often, with marginal holdings, and the variance was enormous. I'm taking a slightly lower variance route these days. Kieran goes for an ISO here. We're probably just going to rip. He discourages me from limping these types of hands because it's just so likely that one of these dudes, well, not dead likely, but it's relatively likely that one of these is just going to go all in. But we can't just be open folding. 2 limps here, so we're going to bump our ISO up to 11 antes. And we missed the flop. And because this isn't a limped pot, I'm less inclined to make a small stab. Not sure why I'm less inclined, but in fact I'm not less inclined. We will make a small stab. And we're going to get punished for it this time. Not really, we're going to get called. Not going to bluff again. It's not folding a pair. Pair's now a full house. And we do have some chances to hit an ace or a king. I have like maybe 18% or something here. That's the, what do we have, like 3%, 6, yeah, about 18%. We didn't get there though. And we lose to the 6-8. Never mind. If somebody wants to limp a 6-8 off in the first position, then more power to them. Yeah, if you're familiar with the rule of 2 and 4 in no limit, in this game it's the rule of 3 and 6 when it comes to like turning your potential outs into like an equity, a rough equity calculation. You're going to over limp the 9-7 suited. I'm going to be ISO in the ace jack here versus 2 very loose limpers. And we're not going to be shy with our sizing. Make it 14 antes from the book, well 15 antes because we had an ante already in. Two callers, we flopped top pair, we've got an SPR of less than 1. It's going to go in. And if we beat, then we beat. And if we're flipping versus someone's draw, then we're flipping. What the actual fuck is this? I mean, we have to just treat this as a check, of course, but he's just bet 14 chips into 530. He could be inducing the shove. I mean, I was going to shove anyway, so it makes no difference. But if he's done that to induce, then that's pretty funny. If he's got like a set of 6 or a set of 8s, we're up against a draw, which gets there, and we just lose. Well played, sir. I mean, I think from his situation there, from his perspective, and this isn't me being salty, if you're going to like check call it off all in there, I think when you flop a draw, you know, and an open and straight draw is a pretty strong draw, so I'm not saying he shouldn't get all his money in there in that spot. He probably should, because with an open and straight draw there, he's likely got anything from like 35 to 40% equity. So I'm not saying he shouldn't get it all in there. I think he probably should. But I think it's better just bet calling it off or open ripping himself and like getting some fold equity to go with his actual pot equity. So yeah, I think he had to get it in there. I just don't think the way he chose to get it in was the highest EV. And what this guy was doing with his 14 chip bet, the good lord of poker only knows. Limp or ISO? We'll go with a limp. We're not very good at flopping sets today, it seems. And now if we turn a set, we're still a long way from the nuts. And if we river a straight now, we're still a long way from the nuts. So our 9s basically are just a great big piece of smelly cheese at the moment. 10-8 suited, Kieran's limped, he's limped, we'll limp. That's an interesting flop. Pair and a flush draw. Kieran leads out. I think we're going to be seeing you at the river here, Kieran. Add a pretty weak straight draw. Don't think we have any fold equity, so we're not really much point semi-bluffing. I'd rather just check, try to see a free one, if possible. And we do. Sadly, it doesn't improve us. So we have improved to a straight on this table, but we're not too thin for value. And we chop it up with the other 2 9s. That's why we're not flopping sets. We're blocked to fuck. We can't flop a set when the other 2 9s are in someone's fucking hand, can we? We will ISO the king queen off here. Unless this guy limps too, and then we won't, then we'll just limp ourselves. I'm concerned one of these 2 donuts is just going to rip here, but I think we need to be isolating king queen off versus a almost 70 V pip. Trying game heads. Good for you, sir. Good for you. Rooting for Mr. Pink Tag here, and he has the flush. We like to see it. In fact, we'd love to see it. I think that our card distribution so far this video has been at the low end. This is like the least action we've had in one of these videos so far, and that's just a product of the very mediocre holdings that have been delivered to us so far. And then even with the mediocre holdings that we've seen flops, we haven't really improved that much. And that's not a gripe, it's just how the game is. It's just poker, isn't it? You know, sometimes you have sessions where nothing much happens. You don't get action on your best hands, or you get your best hands in positions where it's hard to get action. And other days, you just get delivered way more than your fair share of good hands and get lots of action on them, as we've seen in previous videos. So whereas this one at the moment, sadly, hasn't been action-packed and we've just been bleeding antes. I think it's what I did when I first started playing this game was I'd panic, because you are ante in every single hand. You know, you're ante in 7 antes per orbit. So, you know, it's if your card dead for half an hour, you can lose a buy-in through just folding, or maybe close to a buy-in. And I was kind of like panicking about that a little bit, and was like, oh, you need to be doing more than I'm doing. I don't think that's the case now. I think you just got to be whatever. If it's your turn to just be card dead for half an hour or so, then you have to sacrifice a few antes. Another interesting flop here. Again, another one that we don't need to bet. Don't think our hand wants to bet here. Wants to see turns and rivers. Doesn't want to bet and get raised. That is for certain. Kind of too strong to bluff with, really, and too weak to value bet with. Again, we can't fold here. We have the gut shot, we have the flush draw. Trip out, so we'll be that happy hitting a 10, but the trip outs too. I mean, that's put us ahead of stuff like 6-7. Kind of want a bluff catch here, but I think having spades makes it a much less good bluff catch. I mean, that depends on how thinly he's value betting. If he's the sort of player who's going to like bet a 7 on the turn and then bet it again on the river, then a phone call. I'll answer that later. It's my best friend, but I can speak to him later. Bring him back when we're finished. Yeah, if he's the sort of player who will value bet super wide there, then I think we need to be calling more. If he's polar there, then I don't fucking know. But it did feel like a spot where I wanted to call at least some of the time. 2 pairs on a very coordinated flop. It's pretty hard to flop flushes in this game. What size do I want to go with here? Don't know, so we just go with that one. I mean, in No Limit Hold'em, we just bet small on mono flops. In this game, I think you can probably bet bigger because people won't fold draws. I think we're going to check back this turn, are we? Because King Queen's got there. And I was going to say call most rivers, but maybe not this one. I think Ace Jack can be good here enough. Showdown. It wasn't. Now our 2 kings see the ace on the flop, so they're not going to bet. And they're just going to fold. So yeah, we're seeing a bit of a reversal so far this video. We got off to a good start. I think we're probably still up on the session. Maybe, but not by a lot. If we are up, it's certainly not by a lot. And considering we're like 1-2 stacks towards the start of it, you can see how quickly you can just like bleed chips in this game if you're not careful. I think we're going to go with a pretty light ISO in the middle table. And given what we've seen this guy get it all in with, I hate giving him action, but we're going to. We are ahead. No queen, please. And we make the nuts, which is nice. Even nicer to take it from him. We're not going to be calling all in here with our 10-9. Seems like it'd be a nice time to flop a set on the middle table. What is that flop? Just come on. All 3 overcards? Really? With a blocking bet here on this turn, which I'm not especially in love with my hand right now on this table. Much more in love with it now. I'm going to check here and allow you to bluff with like it's all the straight draws you can have. We do risk missing some value from an 8, but that's about all, I think. And yeah, showed a willingness to bet rivers when check 2, or just bet when check 2 in general. And now we just get to jam and have him call and it be a chop. This jam almost never gets called by worse, but we have to make it because, you know, we've got what is basically the nuts. One, I'll show you my king, Kieran. There you go. I had the king, sir. But although when I check raise that river, everybody knows I've got the king. My mother, who's never played short deck in her life, when I check raise that river, would be able to put me on the king there. This stack could do with reducing, couldn't it? So we'll add and then reduce. So we have a nut draw here, but we're not going to pay 80 chips to try and realise it. We would have realised it, but we certainly weren't getting anywhere near the correct price to try and do so. I'm going to pay very close attention to this hand on this table, because he's not gone all in. He's made it 140. So I'd like to see what he has here if possible. Because if this is like aces, exactly, then that's a very useful potential tell we have on him. Now we've made it 7x, so maybe not. Maybe I'm just talking right out of my ass. Given we've got this guy in the pot and potentially this guy to come in the pot, we're going to try and see a flop with the ace jack. Pick up a double gut shot now with our Jack 10. So we're going to try and pick the pot up. Or just get there. Getting called and getting there would be ideal. I'm not one for slow playing in these games, so we flop bottom set. Just going to pot it. See, nice low cards, please. And that's not a low card, is it? Now we've got a weird spot where we probably still have the best hand. Ace 10 and 10 9 have got there, so 2 gut shots have got there. And try and block. Going to check down our ace jack here and win. And then we get a pretty shit run out for our bottom set, basically, don't we? No value in betting now. Just going to check fold. We certainly win against some king queens, king jacks, queen jacks, king tens. Lots of things he can check back that we just beat. And when he bets, I think he's just going to have a straight always. Do I think these bad players are capable of value betting king queen here? No, I don't. So we pitch it. James, another player I'm familiar with, new to these games. I think he's kind of seen the videos, seen the posts on Facebook, and thought, you know what, I want a piece of that, because James is a good regular, is a good poker player. He understands that, you know, to be good to win at poker, you need to get yourself into good games, and if that means moving away. James was a no limit player when I first knew him, and now he seems to be anything but a no limit player, which I've got a lot of respect for. He's just like, there's some value in these games, so even though I'm not familiar with them, I'm going to fucking grind them and see what happens. And I tip my hat to you, James. What's the effective stack here? We've got like SPR of 2. Don't think the Queen 10's out there. I think we'd have heard about the Queen 10 on the flop. But I've been wrong before. I'm not wrong this time though. Although he does get there anyway. The Queen 10 wasn't there. The Jack 10 was crushed. But then he spiked his 4 outer. Never mind. During my brief short deck career, I've spiked more than my fair share of 4 outers or less, so I'm not going to grumble when someone spikes one back on me. One thing I need to do a little bit of work on is my ranges still. I mean, should that be a limp? I think the reason it puts me off limping is well, this, for example, is that the isolation raises are either all in or just so big. I'm just not sure what to limp call with versus what sizes, what to limp fold with, etc. My limping game needs a lot of work. I'm not that keen on calling raises these types of hands either, because all in pre-flop happens enough of the time where I think you can be often just burning money by calling big raises. We flop a set here. Pre-flop raiser has checked. We're going to make a large bet on a very coordinated board. It's already straight out there. Flush draws, etc. We've got 2 pairs here. Facing 2 all-ins. I'm just going to let it go. We were miles ahead, but turn would have got us. Well, miles ahead is not true. We were not miles ahead there. That is inaccurate of me to say that. Those guys, between them, had a lot of equity against our bottom 2. Against our top and bottom pair, sorry. So we weren't miles ahead. I correct myself. And I think my fault there. Even though we had the best hand at the time in terms of equity in the pot. But that's probably something I need to go and do, actually, is a little bit of, like, spots like that. In fact, I'm actually going to do it on this one. Mark the hand for review, then go and find a short deck equity calculator and see just how well bottom 2's doing there against what was effectively at the time top pair and middle pair. Because in Hold'em, that's a really good spot, but in this game, I think it's a much less good spot because combined equity. You know, I think I'd way less than 50% equity there. I mean, I needed less than 50% too. I mean, I probably only needed maybe 30% equity to... No, actually, because he was a small in, wasn't he? I don't fucking know. That's exactly the type of work I need to do, and it's very basic work. So I'm happy to do that work. What put me off No Limit was the work you need to do is like incredibly complex. It involves using solvers that, you know, like run complex sims, etc. Couldn't be less asked about doing that sort of thing. But like the basic nuts and bolts stuff that you need to know, like how do certain hands perform versus ranges in certain matchups in all-in EV, that sort of stuff. It's work that can be done pretty quickly, and it's pretty easy to commit to memory. So that's the sort of work I need to be doing. That will definitely bring about some huge improvements. Like run some pre-flop matchups, you know, try and figure out just how wide we... Am I stacking off too wide in some spots? Am I not stacking off wide enough? All those types of things that you can do the work much more quickly, but there's a lot of benefit in doing the work because just knowing that stuff, knowing your opponents don't know that stuff, it just gives you such a huge edge. We have a monster draw here. I'm just going to bet big and call it off versus shoves. I mean, we could just open rip here, but I think like SPR out of like 4-1 like it was, I prefer just using a smaller size. If it was a 2-1 SPR, would have been like value jamming, then I would certainly jam that hand too. But the SPR was like almost 4-1. Some pretty disappointing flops with our like suited connectors this video. He says after just flopping a fucking gut shot raw flush draw, but I think it's a reasonable statement. Is that you home already, Donna? Well, I asked if it's you home already, but obviously it's you home already because you're home. Say hello to the people, Dawn. I'll wind it up now. Hello. I don't think they heard you. Right, anyways, ace queen here. We've limped from the one hole. And we're going to fold it, but the current Mrs. Regan is now home, so we're going to play the hands that we're in and then wrap it up. we've bricked with a 910 really. See what's going down here with our friend George, who went for the ISO pre that wasn't all in, which made me nervous with our ace queen. Maybe we would have had the best hand there, who knows. Could be a bit nitty, that fold. And play this king 10 suited, and I think we'll wrap it up. I'm going to go with the sizable ISO on the button. Try and get heads up versus someone, or just take it down pre. Turn trips over here with some other draws. Call if he bets, bet if he doesn't. And we take it down. So when this pot's finished, we'll call it a day. So we'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed the update. I'll probably be doing another video later this week. I'm not sure when. Probably Thursday, I think. As my wife turns her coffee making machine on, which is really noisy. So take care, everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see you again really soon. Bye bye for now.